Hey guys, welcome to the Dialed In podcast. This is the low equity edition. Today we're joined by Thomas Dowd and Majeida Harvey. Before we do some introductions for both of those, we are sponsored by rocketbotleads.ai. What they do is they provide day one low equity listings for us to call. So the conversation is very different. You'll hear conversations say that are very different than probably conversations that you're used to having with agents on 90 plus day leads or even day 10 or 14 leads. So thank you so much, Rocketbot Leads, for the data that we're working today. If you guys want to use their services, they are offering, let me bring up the banner here. They are offering a 14-day free trial of the data. So go to rocketbotleads.ai, put dialed in 14 as your coupon code, you get 14-day free trial on that. Okay. Today is going to be a little bit different, and I'll introduce the participants first before we tell you guys how it's going to be a little bit different. Thomas, tell us first where you're from and who you are and how people can work with you if they so choose.
Okay, I'm currently in the Oklahoma market. My main business has always been fix and flip, and really I like to call. So I'm comfortable with people. Sales is my experience, so I'm just trying to connect with people through conversation.
I love it. What kind of deals are you doing?
Like I said, I just got a lease option. I've done a couple owner finance. I've created a few notes. I got a couple houses that were low-hanging fruit, paid cash for them, turned them into notes, and then sold them to note investors. So now I'm just kind of moving in. I had a bad business partner and some bad things happened. So now I'm just kind of starting over and trying to get the wholesale down so I can start finding my own deals instead of relying on other people to bring them to me. So
if people want to work with you, how can they reach out to you?
They can reach me at my email, Thomas Dowd, DOWD, @yahoo.com, or my phone number is 720-232-0607.
Love it. Thanks for that. Majeida, we are neighbors. We're not too far away from each other. Take a few minutes and introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Okay, hello. Hi, everyone. How you doing today? My name is Majeida Harvey, and I am a transactional lender. I lend EMD and double close, and I also am learning capital raising because, hey, everybody needs money. The reason why I'm here is because I want to actually learn the skills of negotiation. And of course, I would like to learn wholesaling. And so that's pretty much why I'm here. I'm from Northwest Texas. I'm in Leander, Texas, just 30 minutes outside of Austin. And thank you for having me. Looking forward to today.
Thanks for coming on. So if people are looking for transactional funding from you, how can they reach out to you?
You can reach out to me at majeida706@gmail.com. Perfect. I'm also on Messenger under Majeida Harvey.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. That's a really good transition. Thanks for the segue, Majeida. Appreciate that. Today is a little bit different. So we're having some technical issues here. I won't do this as often as I probably want to, just because I want to be able to give Thomas and Majeida the floor to make some phone calls. But today, I'm going to be making the phone calls. We're going to be working the same data from rocketbotleads.ai, but I will be working the leads myself. So what I've asked Thomas and Majeida to do is to provide me with feedback. What would you guys do differently? What would you say differently? Thomas, I want your sales experience to kind of come out here and provide me with some feedback, because we can all get better, right, on the phone calls. And Majeida, I want you to ask any questions that you have about Subto, anything related to the transaction itself, funding, that sort of thing. Let's talk about that and kind of dive in. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just start to make some phone calls. We'll see who can, excuse me, just drop my golf club. I know it's weird, I have a golf club, but I use it to close the door on my kids sometimes. So, and I also practice my swing. Let's just get into some dialing. I'll make some phone calls here. You guys provide me with feedback. Hey, Angelica, it's Mike Jackson. How you doing?
Funny yourself?
I'm good. I was calling about your new listing on Little Road. I guess you just came
Okay.
on the market yesterday. Is that right, or the day before?
Yesterday.
Awesome, cool. What's the activity been like? I know that you guys are brand new on market, but has it been busy?
We got 3 showings today, and one of them just got done, and they're going to be submitting an offer.
Very cool. That's awesome. So I'm curious. I've been looking at some rentals in this area. The other ones I've been looking at haven't seen the same activity that you've seen. What do you think is different about this one?
I think because we lower the price, and because people are just getting ready to move.
Mm-hmm. Got it. The sellers are getting ready to move, or new buyers are getting ready to move.
The new buyers are getting. We're seeing new buyers on the market.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm seeing the same thing. Interest rates are getting, they're stabilizing a little bit. I think money's coming back into some people's bank accounts. So I'm seeing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I'll kind of cut to the chase here. What I'm looking for is a rental in the area. And so can you tell me a little bit about this house? Maybe something that I can't see on Zillow, for example.
Let's see. The house has an in-ground pool. It has 4 bedrooms. One of the bedrooms is on the first floor with a full bathroom. Then there's another half bathroom. It has a living room, family room, dining room, kitchen. On the second floor, you have the other 3 bedrooms with a master bedroom upstairs with a full bathroom. And then the other 2 bedrooms, one of the bedrooms has an adjacent access to the hallway bathroom. The house is turnkey. It was fully renovated, so there's not that much to do to the house. It's just move-in ready. It has almost an acre. It's a little bigger than half acre. So it's a very open space. Acre thing is in the corner lot.
Okay, cool. I could scroll down, I know, on Zillow, but is this in an HOA?
No HOA.
Okay, perfect. You mentioned that this property was previously on the market.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's brand new on the market. When did you cancel the last agreement that you had, or the last listing? Was that recent?
She said, yeah, we canceled it in December because she wanted to take some time off, and now she wanted to put it back on the market.
Okay, cool. And is the property vacant?
Oh, yes.
Okay. That's got to be a pain for the seller, I can imagine.
Well, she's in Texas.
Hey, me too. Which part of Texas?
Taylor, Texas.
Okay, yeah, it's not too far from me. I'm in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor's not too far.
Okay.
So the reason that I was calling specifically about this one, I told you that I was looking for a rental, but I'm curious if you guys are open to a different way of possibly me submitting an offer.
We just to let you know, she wants to sell the property. She does not want to hold a mortgage or anything. She wants completely sold.
Yep. Got it. I can totally appreciate that. I know that you guys were on the market before at a similar price, right?
Yes, and we got several offers like probably the one that you're going to submit.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to let you know, she's going to turn it down. She wants completely sell it off and get it off her name.
No worries. I completely get it. Have you ever done a transaction like that before?
I have, and my clients regret it.
I'm sorry. What did you say? I missed that last part.
I have, and my client regretted it.
Oh, why? What happened?
Yeah. The people that were in the house, there was a tenant actually. It seemed that they were not paying on time, so the trust funds that was holding the deed that they were supposed to make the payments to my client, they never did. And then the house went under foreclosure. So they do not want it. For all my clients, they do not want to deal with anything like that.
Yep.
They just want to sell it off and get it off their name.
Well, it's funny. If I were in your shoes and if I've had to deal with that before, I would never want to do that type of a transaction either. So I totally get it. I'm kind of curious. The people who bought the house that you just mentioned, were they someone who's seasoned and local, or were they just some fly-by-night investor?
It was a fly-by-night investors.
Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. One thing I always tell agents who have done a transaction like this before is to make sure it's structured correctly, and I think that may have been an issue in the previous transaction.
And the thing is, the attorney reviewed it and everything.
Yeah.
So
It's just one of those things, Like I told my clients, sometimes you get a good deal, sometimes you get a bad deal. It just depends on the case, on the situation.
It's funny because I think that type of transaction is, even though it's increasing in popularity, I still think it's rare for an attorney to be familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if attorneys do look at it, they have that JD behind their name, it doesn't mean that they're going to be perfect in the way that they structure it, unfortunately. So I'm sorry that you experienced that.
Oh, that's fine.
So just out of curiosity, do you have any other homes that you currently have listed in the area that might be worth us taking a look at? We can buy cash, we can buy conventional. Just curious if you have anything else.
I have another that's 3 minutes away from there, but like I said, it has to be completely. They want to close it within 30 days, and then I want to hold anything back. They just want they wanted to hold it, how it is. So if you're going to give me for you to, that they will be under the trust funds, and then but the mortgage is going to be on the seller's name, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, the reason I was bringing that up before is we can purchase cash, we can purchase conventional. I don't have to purchase this way. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking for rental property. So would you mind sending that over to me?
Yeah, well, just send me via text, send me your email, so that way I can send you the property.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, guys, talk to me.
I think you did a really good job. You held them on the phone for a very good amount of time to gather information, and I believe you established a relationship. Now I know that she said that the seller was didn't want to do an assumption, but if you were able to show maybe present a structure, this an assumption structure to the realtor, and possibly if you could get her interest, if that was something you still would like to do. But I think you established very good rapport with the realtor.
Thank you. Thomas, what do you think?
Great intro, great discovery, right? You found her pain point. You discovered, I don't even think it was any of her clients that aren't interested. She's the one that got burnt in the situation, right? So she's got a bad experience. So now you know where to bring value to the situation, right? Now you know how to show her, hey, there's value to this, and now I know your pain point, and I know how to circumvent it. So definitely leaves it open, but you can also see the headache with people that have been through something like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue that I ran into with this phone call, right? Is if she's had a bad experience before, and that was probably her first experience, right? So she's 0 for 1, basically. That's kind of the assumption that I make on that. Yeah. I don't see a lot of agents who are doing lots of these deals. That's why I'm saying 0 for 1 as opposed to 1 out of 10, for example, goes bad. If she's had bad experience, she's not going to promote that as a possibility to her client, ever. Right. I didn't know what she meant by the trust thing. I think she meant maybe servicing. I don't know what she meant by that in terms of making the payments, but what it sounded like is that they had it rented. The renters were making payments, but the buyer or the owner, the current owner, was not making the payments to the bank, and it fell through. Right. So, instead of making the delta between what the mortgage balance or what the mortgage payment is and what they were collecting in rent, they were just collecting the whole rent and saying, hey, screw you, I'm just going to take the whole money. That sounds fraudulent to me.
Yep.
So that's a shame. A big thing for me, and I've been trying to promote this as much as I possibly can. Anytime I'm invited on a podcast or something like that, I always find myself going down this road, is talking about how to protect a seller in an ethical, legal, and moral way. And there are 3 or 4 or 5 things that I make sure to include in that type of a transaction to make sure that I'm protecting the seller as best as possible. And I don't think that's what happened in this scenario at all. And if it was structured correctly, if the seller had a promissory note and a deed of trust given to them, if they held that, then they could technically foreclose on the person that they sold it to, as opposed to the bank foreclosing on whoever, right? Also, the most important thing here, I think, at least the way that I would structure something like this, is I would make sure that the seller knew that the buyer was going to escrow payments,
Sure.
a couple months worth of payments, in case someone missed a payment. And if that were the case, at least the seller could draw down off that account and make the payments current while foreclosing, because typically what we always want to do is include a default clause, right, in our documentation. And so if the default clause says that you can foreclose after a 30-day period of non-payment, but you have 3 months worth of payments in an escrow account, you're covered, right? You don't have to come out of pocket to make those payments as the seller.
And couldn't you set it up instead of a foreclosure in the disclosure? Couldn't you also set it up like a deed in lieu where you just kind of sign the house back over? You don't even have to go through that process.
You absolutely could. That's one thing that I always encourage people to use as a backup to the promissory note in the deed of trust and properly identifying what default means. Because, and this is just here in Texas, Thomas, I don't know about Oklahoma, I don't know about Colorado or anywhere else, but the attorneys that I work with here say that the performance deed or a deed in lieu of foreclosure, they don't hold up as solidly as a default clause in a promissory note or a deed of trust.
Sure. Okay.
So it's sort of like, hey, I promise that I'll sign this, but realistically, the other thing too is that it's very hard to say that I will sign something in the future, or to pre-sign something for an event that might happen in the future. I think that's the real issue.
Okay.
So you could absolutely do that. I don't think it properly protects them, but anyway, that's kind of where all that stands. Majeida, you're kind of new to the Subto world a little bit in terms of the acquisition of creative finance deals. What questions do you have about that phone call or that opportunity?
Well, I guess my question is like, how would you structure if you can get the realtor to, accept an offer, how would you structure it?
So the data that you guys, that I sent over to you guys to see from Rocketbot data or Rocketbot leads, the last 3 columns, the third to last one, I believe, is equity percentage. The second to last is equity in cash dollar amount. And basically what those 2 columns are calculating is the equity position based on the current asking price and the current mortgage amount. Then we're not taking out any sort of commissions, any fees, anything like that as a process of selling. The last column actually does that. So the last column takes out 8% for closing costs, commissions, repairs, that sort of thing. So on that one, it looks like the sellers are planning to walk away with about $20,000 or so. So $20,000 is a lot to give as cash at close to a seller, especially at that price point. So in terms of structuring something now that would make sense for them, I probably wouldn't even consider offering on this yet. And the reason for that is because it's been on the market before at a similar or the same price. It didn't sell, right? They just put it back on the market, hoping that there are more buyers in the market. Hopefully there are for them. And it sounds like they also have a lot of activity, right? She said that they were going to receive an offer today, and then they have a couple of showings as well. So for me as a creative investor who is offering something different, what I'm going to do is sit back and kind of watch a little bit and see what happens. Ideally, and hopefully we can get on a phone call here where I do this, but ideally the conversation that I would have is something like, look, I know that you guys are brand new on the market. I know that the way that I purchase homes is a little bit different and probably not what the sellers are expecting or familiar with. Let me explain to you how it could work. And if you guys do get to the point where you want to consider taking an offer that's similar to mine, let me explain it to you further. And what I do at that point, Thomas, I kind of mentioned it before, is I layer those value points, right? The value points are, if you choose to go this route of a creative finance offer, make sure that your offer includes the following 4 or 5 points. It's kind of like a creative scorching the earth method, in the sense that I'm going to say, make sure the seller gets a promissory note and a deed of trust. make sure that the seller escrow or the buyer escrows 2 to 3 months at least worth of payments. Thank you. Make sure that there's a servicing company put in place so that proper communication goes to the seller, goes to the buyer, goes to the agent, goes to whoever needs that sort of connection. I also make sure that insurance is done correctly, because that's always the biggest thing when it comes to these deals, and it raises red flags with lenders the most out of anything else. That's 4 things right there. There's another 1 or 2 that I'll add sometimes depending on the type of deal that this is. But basically what I'm doing with this is I'm basically scorching the earth against every other creative investor that's going to call. Because I've told the agent, Thomas, that this is what I would do and how I would make sure that I was protected if I were in the seller's shoes. And she, in this situation, this agent would go to every other creative investor and say, hey, I have this guy over here who's willing to do this, 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 and this. Will you do the same? No? Okay, cool. I'm still at the top of the list.
Would it ever be smart to start from the end? So like let's to the chase and then work backwards. So like okay, your house is X amount of dollars. At the end of the day, after commission, et cetera, your seller's only going to walk away with $5,000 after paying everything. So I have a structure. I have a way I'm interested in purchasing this that would still put that same end dollar amount in their pockets. Let me explain.
Totally. 100%. The reason that I didn't do that on this call is because they were going to net about $20,000 cash with a traditional sale. I'm not anywhere near providing them with $20,000 cash at close. That's not what I want to do at all. And so if it's tighter, if it's like $5,000 in your scenario, what I would say is something like, look, it looks like the sellers are going to walk away with about $5,000 based on the asking price today and what they currently owe today. Now, who knows what's going to happen in 30 days, right? The price could change. You guys might not get the activity that you're looking for. And then what do you have to do to increase the engagement in the listing? The only way that you can increase it is by lowering the price, right? Or offering incentives of some sort. But that's a dollar for dollar reduction in their cash at close.
Sure.
And so what I would do in that scenario is say, look, it looks like this is going to happen based on the numbers that I have. Am I right or am I wrong? And then I would transition to the way that I like to present my offers maximizes the seller's equity at close. Because we pay for your commission, we pay the closing costs. Any fees that are associated with the transfer of the property come out of our pocket, not the seller's. As a result, we're able to give the seller a little bit more cash at close. You know, that's kind of how I would pivot that a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Anything else on this call, guys? Anything I can improve on?
No, I think the thing that I get frustrated with, and part of my issue with doing agent outreach is because I'm licensed, right? And legally, I'm supposed to take every offer, whether I agree with it or not, and I'm supposed to present it to the seller. That's not my decision to decide whether I'm going to take such an offer to them or not. So that's my biggest frustration with realtors is they don't even do what they're supposed to be doing. Like she can have a bad experience, but she should still, even if they get an offer today, go, hey, there is another offer on the table. I know you might not like it, but here it is. So how do you circumvent that?
What I've done before is I've just submitted an offer. Or I will ask very specifically, and I'll say, if you're the agent in the scenario, Thomas, I would say something like, have you had a specific conversation with the seller where they have told you very specifically that they will not consider any sort of creative offers or any sort of Subto offers? I'll say it differently there so that they can understand it. But that's the only scenario where the agent can say in that moment that we're not considering any offers like this, right? It's the same thing as price, right? If you're listing your home for $400,000, you're the seller, and you tell me, the agent, not to consider anything below $325,000,
Correct.
Then I don't have to present it to them because you've given me that outline right now, right? So what I would do in that scenario is just ask. If they haven't had that discussion, what I'm going to do is just send them an offer.
Okay.
And see what happens.
Okay.
All right. Let me make another phone call. Excuse me. Could you guys hear the call okay?
Yes, sir.
Brian?
Hey, Brian, this is Mike Jackson. How you doing?
Good.
I'm calling about a listing that you just posted, the one on West 1735th Street, or South, excuse me, South.
Okay, sorry, I'm just on a Zoom, so let me mute that real quick.
Do you want to call you back? Is there a better time for you to touch base?
My whole team's transferring brokerages right now, and I was the first to land over there, so let me just log in real quick.
Do you have a lot of listings? It sounds like you're super busy.
We've got a few, so yeah.
While you're looking that up, let me kind of tell you what I'm looking for and why I'm looking at this one specifically, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm looking for some rental properties in West Haven, and I currently own about 3 right now with partners, and so we're just looking to expand our portfolio a little bit.
Okay.
The reason that this caught my eye, it looks like it's in really good condition, and I like to buy homes that are in good condition just because then I don't have any sort of big capital expenditures as we continue to rent that out.
Okay.
So the reason I'm telling you that is just in case this one doesn't work for whatever I'm looking for. If you have anything else that does fit that criteria, I would love for you to represent us on those sorts of transactions.
Okay. Fantastic. And this is the townhome in West Haven, is that 1735 South?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. What can I tell you about that one?
So tell me about the activity that you guys have gotten on it so far. I know it's brand new on the market. Has it been pretty active with this one?
We just barely put it up yesterday. Haven't had anybody come through it yet, but it came up, I believe, at about 5 o'clock yesterday.
Oh, okay,
so
got
just
it.
barely hit the market.
Got it. Okay, cool. If I want to submit an offer on this, so typically what I do is that we just offer cash on these types of deals. If I were to submit a cash offer, is there any flexibility in the pricing at all?
I would need to check with my client, obviously, but essentially we're representing both sides. There might be, like I said, have to check with the owner himself and kind of see where he's at. But forgive me, my business partner was kind of the one that's been dealing with the owner on the. I think he's owned it for about 2 years, so he hasn't owned it for terribly long. So, and I want to say he possibly went FHA on it when he purchased it. So, pretty close list price of what he bought it for. And that's been 2 years ago, so I don't know how much the mortgage has been paid down. So I don't know, essentially what kind of equity spread he's got in it. So I would need to double check on that. Can you tell me ballpark where you think on that?
Not much less than the asking price, but I also did, while you were telling me that, I looked up kind of their equity position based on what I can see on my end. It does look like it's really tight.
Yeah.
The alternative, and I don't know if this is something that the seller would be even interested in, would they be interested in us just simply taking over the mortgage that they currently have in place?
I would need to double check on that, and I'm very familiar with this, so you're talking to the right agent.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I've done a number of these transactions myself. But yeah, I can definitely check on that and see if that's something that they would entertain on that. So,
what do you think this would rent for?
I am not even sure. So, like I said, my whole team's transferring over to a new brokerage, and my business partner, he lives up north. I'm down in the Harriman area, but he was moving all of our listings over into my name so that he can transfer brokerages and then he'll be over. But yeah, I could definitely take a look at that and get back to you on some rental comments as far as that goes.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. I love your opinion on that. Okay. You said you've done transactions like that before. It's so rare for me to talk to an agent who's done that.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I got into it about 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And are you part of Subto?
I am actually. Oh, yeah.
Yep. So I'm in Subto as well. So,
awesome.
But yeah, I've bought properties myself. I've bought and flipped properties on, all sorts of different types of seller financing. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Are you going to Squat Up this year?
I have not planned on it. We're in the process of a pretty massive industrial development down in central Utah. So I've been kind of out of the Subto, have my face in it every single day, but utilize the tools obviously when I need to do a creative situation.
Very cool.
So, but yeah. So I don't even know when Squat Up is, to be totally honest.
Well, then it sounds like it's unlikely that we'll meet each other in person there. But
that's right.
But either way, let me take a further look at this thing, see if it does make sense for us to submit a formal offer. Otherwise, I'd just like to touch base with you and kind of see how we can work together in the future on anything else.
For sure. Yeah, save my number. This is my cell.
Awesome.
And Brian Armstrong. I'm here in Utah. If you ever need boots on the ground, go look at something. Feel free to give me a holler. I'm more than happy to go and check stuff out, video call with you, whatever.
I love it.
Yeah, you need help in that with anything.
Well, again, my name is Mike Jackson. This is my cell phone number 2, so you can reach out to me anytime you want. And good luck with the move. It sounds like it's a good move for you guys.
Yeah, it will be. So I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Brian. Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
Okay, I kept that super light, but talk to me.
I love your flow, right? I like, again, you're big with the intro, you're big with discovery, and then I like that you kind of start with cash offer, like I'm a cash buyer. Then I've taken a look on my end, tight equity situation. Have you looked at an alternative? Here comes Sub 2.
I like doing that one sometimes because, especially with that one, they're supposed to net around $1,500 cash at close. So as he was talking, it kind of gave me an opportunity to say, hey, by the way, while you were looking that up, I did my own research on it. It looks like it's super tight. The only reason I offered cash first is to see if he would say that it was super tight, but he gave me that opportunity anyway, which was nice. So a good pickup. I like that a lot. He seems like a really good agent too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Majeida, what'd you think?
That's a good connection.
Mm-hmm.
Really good connection.
I agree. I think it's interesting when anyone asks.
Especially a lot of leads.
Or he could just take them down himself too. But it's always intimidating whenever I talk to an agent who is also in Sub 2. Not intimidating, that's the wrong word. It's a unique situation, right? Because do I tell them I'm also in Sub 2? Do I tell them exactly what I do, who I am? I don't know, But it's always fun though too. At the same time, to talk to a Sub 2 member. Majeida, any specific questions, technical questions, on that deal?
Oh, no, I don't have any comments so far as, no, not on that particular one. That seemed like, to me, that was like on autopilot.
I still have one question.
Thomas, go ahead.
So, I do have one question. It seems like half the people I talk to, they want more equity. Some want 40, 50% equity in it. And some like don't care. Like you said, like they're getting less cash at the table. There's not much spread there for them, but it works for you as far as maybe a cash flowing asset, just another asset on the books. How do you kind of determine which route to go with it?
So what I call specifically where I have focused a lot of my time where I'm most comfortable is on very low equity situations. And as we discussed before we press record here, I like to typically buy them and then resell them on owner financing. So the advantage for me is that I can buy an asset that's probably not going to cash flow. That's probably not going to cash flow. That's a townhome. They're going to have an HOA. They're going to have, I think the interest rate on it was like 5%. It's probably not going to cash flow. But if I were to buy that at a 5% rate and then sell it at 7.5 or 8%, I've made an arbitrage there, right? I've made my delta. I can make some cash flow there. And the reason I like low equity, and the way that I define low equity, is anything less than basically 15% based on the current ask price compared to the mortgage balance. And what I'll do is I'll also tighten up my my data a little bit. So if I'm looking at a 15% equity spread, I'll go up to around 4.5% interest on the interest rate. If I go above 4.5%, I want to tighten that up so much. So I'll go between 8 and 10% or less equity. And the reason that I do that is because I want to be able to get in for as little as I possibly can as the interest rate goes up, right? So in that scenario, that house was for sale for $420. Sellers are going to walk away with $1,500 at close. So if I give them $2,000, if I pay the agent, call it 3%, $12,000, I'm going to have closing costs on top of that. I can probably get into it for less than $20,000 at a higher interest rate. And so that's the big advantage for me, is I can get into it for a lower entry fee because the equity that I'm targeting is so low. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Anything else on that one?
Interesting strategy.
No, I like that call.
Okay, cool. I'm going to have to cut it a little bit short. I got a couple of phone calls while I was on the phone with that agent saying, call me right away. So I got to go put out some fires. It probably has to do with the foreclosure in San Antonio. But what I want you guys to come back on where we can make some calls all together. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And I really do appreciate your help. Thomas, thank you so much. Majeida, so good to see you.
Thanks for your time.
Of course. Of course. Thank you, guys. Have a great day, okay?
You too.
Yeah,
All right,
that was fun. Thank you.
anytime.
Nice to meet you, Thomas.
You as
See
well.
y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.